Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. Hope you guys are doing well today. Today's video is the sins have reached to the high heavens, and it's time for repayment. So I just wanted to touch in on a bit of that. I finished my first year of university actually early this morning. I handed in my last assignment around maybe 12:15 a.m. and so there it is. I'm done my first year. I don't want to share my marks because I don't want to appear as anything, right? But I did well, so it's hard to look at today versus the way it used to be just a short time ago, right? I don't know how old my audience is, but I would say if you're in your 40s, I wouldn't even say in your 30s, even though in your 30s, you know, you'd have to be probably at least in your mid-30s to completely understand, or to partially understand the way it used to be. Really, I'm not joking. Like 10 years makes a big difference. It really makes a big difference. I just want to tell you what I'm going to say. One thing about the way it is now, and then I'm going to go back to when I grew up, okay? And before I even say those things, in the Bible, it's quite clear that the people of Israel, God would not allow them to enter into Canaan. But he was driving them towards there, wasn't he? He was driving them towards that way, because their sins hadn't reached their fullness yet, right? They hadn't reached their fullness yet. And someone might say, well, if they're giving them a chance, that means God is giving them a chance to repent of the evil things that they're doing. And someone will say, well, why was God driving them towards that land in the first place if he was just going to do it anyways? Because he knows the end from the beginning. And no, he doesn't plan it out that way that they're going to do that. You'd make a big mistake in your biblical theological mind if you thought that. And it's no different than it is today. And Jesus told us, he said, by the way, guys, if I get a phone call, I'm going to walk into the other room and I will come back. I don't want to record twice. Just give me a sec. He said that it's going to look like the days of Noah. And I think people get it mixed up about the days of Noah. They start looking at giants. Do you actually think you're going to start to see giants? Hey, maybe when we're not here, or we're being protected, when God is pouring out his wrath. You know that, I don't want to go too far off base, but you know that 200 million man army? I heard, was it Pastor Livingston? Man, I love that man. He's such a good preacher. That 200 million man army, just the way to describe it. And I have a viewer, and that viewer that may be watching me right now, does this go back to the book of Joel? Man, I'm forgetting the one where they leap over the walls and the mountains and they come in the window as a thief, as a robber. They're talking about the day of the Lord. But they were saying those are drones. They had metal breastplates. You get it now? Metal breastplates. That's all I'll say. We're in that. Just think about that. So there's not going to be, I don't think there's going to be monsters and not yet. People are looking for that type of stuff in the days of Noah. I just don't think they're going to find that. And I do believe God is going to supernaturally protect us. Obviously, we're not appointed to wrath, but where is he going to take us? Will he keep us in the same spot but just protect us from all evil? I don't know. That's not the topic of this conversation, actually. But when you look around, it's not hard to see. I mean, anywhere you go, and I don't care where you live, it looks, things are not looking good in terms of sin. And so if you're born again and you're saved, if you're truly saved, you hate sin. As John says, right? We don't practice sin. We don't make a practice of it. And when I was born again, I looked at it and I'm like, man, I don't want to do those things anymore. Not that we won't, we will. We'll still sin, but we hate it. And we're sorry when we do it. So it'll be like the days of Noah. Jesus didn't say it will be the days of Noah. But it'll appear so. So, there will be violence and theft and violent stuff, murder, sexuality, whatever. All those things will be in no short supply. So I'm going to give you a statistic here, and it's going to blow your mind, because this is in my first year, which I just finished. So I don't know, I did 30 credits, and so the one I just did, so that was a class I just finished. So I have been taught in trauma-informed care. So trauma, sexual abuse, and recovery. This statistic will blow your mind, and it will blow your mind. Then I'm going to go back to when I was young. So like I said, 10 years makes a difference from 35 to 45, because we're talking about a time of dramatic change. This is probably the same in oh man, it's got to be the United States. It is the United States, because that's where the study came from, but it's no different in Canada, and it's probably the same in the West. Like the Western Hemisphere, and oh man, it probably throughout the world, but not to this degree as probably in the States, because of the level of partying in university. Just in case you've seen me for the first time, I have a throat disorder, okay? So I get a lot of spasms in my throat. I think I'm forgetting between people who drink, yes. For those most people who go into university and residential and just going there by day, when they use drugs and alcohol, do you know what the percentage is yearly that a woman will be raped? Annually. 1 in 5, 20%. If you don't believe me, go Google it and you're going to find the same stat. 1 in 5 women will be raped on a university college campus if they're using substances. And even not, still, obviously when you use, you put yourself in danger of post-traumatic stress disorder, which that's going to cause you if you're raped. But that's where we are, and I wanted to make that point. I guess you could call it rape culture, and I don't mean to keep saying that word. Let me pace and take a bite, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my youth. I may get a call in 13 minutes from now, and that's a very important call, and I may have to cut it off actually. I'm not sure if they're going to call it that time, but you know, the my splenic flexure syndrome, which I don't want to talk about. I'm waiting for a call from, what is it, the National Organization of Rare Disorders, because this doesn't even have a statistic on it. And so I'm one of the only people, I think I'm the only person who's ever made a video on that subject. And on YouTube, I'm not kidding. And so it's, you know, I want to help them, and I want to tell them everything about it. So that's why I'd have to take that call. Yeah, that's why you see me. I seem restless and all this in these pictures. It's not nice, and it differs from day to day. So I know I give too much information sometimes, but so I was born in 1978, and so that means I'm 46. And like I said before to you, the telephones were all dial phones. Like they were spring-loaded dial phones. So they were like this, like go, like that. And it was, you know, it was like, wow, when the actual press phones came. And then the next thing after that was caller ID. And and I've said this in other videos, you know, the most we had was like Nintendo, Atari, and then it was Nintendo, Atari in television, which I had in television. Most people had Atari, and there was a personal computer, and it was probably around $2,000, $800 to $2,000, which is a lot of money to buy. And there was the beginning of that, right? We had no idea what was coming. We still called male and female. There was no Babylon-like state, right? What do I mean by that? The mystery of romance, right? Between you know, I'd say more when you're getting, you know, 15 and older. But you know, when you're in elementary school, you're still looking at girls and stuff like that. Maybe you didn't, but you know, that type of thing where it's just a close-knit community. You don't really know what's going on outside other places, right? You just hear stories and stuff like that. And the way that was, and you know, when you get older, things seem smaller, of course. But there was a feeling. Sundays, things were closed down. The liquor store was closed down. Shopping places were closed down, and it was actually quite nice. Even though we got to the point of saying, you know, it'd be nice to be able to do this, and that's how it starts to envelop. And I'm not talking about the Catholic Church and all those things. It was nice to have a day like that. Those were the good old times. And those were the times where, you know what happens when people are not constantly on a TV screen and have these devices? What happens is you start to imagine things. People's imaginations are allowed to run whichever way they want. And so when I look at the stats of things today, like transgender and all sorts of other things, I'm not going to get into everything because that's not what this is about. You know, when things used to be like, you know, it'd be quite rare to to be transgender. I have nothing against anyone, but I'm just talking about the stats. Then you bring in computers and everyone thinks they have it because someone is pushing an agenda somewhere, and it's the real power behind it is Satan. Friends were able to come together in groups, go on trips, and go skiing, and people were physically active. Most people went out and did some kind of swimming. You would have swimming lessons, you'd have, and I'm sorry if you came from a bad home. I really am. I think that's horrible. But to the people that, and there is a sharp contrast, isn't there? Fatherless homes now. Jobs going down the tubes. It's all because of connectivity. And if you say no, you're just uneducated. Because it all began from there. And that's why AI is going to take so many jobs, you have no idea. What I'm fighting for, what I'm going to be a personal support worker, an addictions counselor, those things could be taken. Addictions counselor would be less likely, but AI, of course. It's more, and I'm not saying, it depends on each person. It's not always good to be around your family all the time, of course not. Some people choose to only see their parents once a month or once every 6 months. Some people choose to live with their parents because they love them and they're family bound that way. And some cultures are, by the way. And I respect all of those views. But marriages stuck together a lot more, didn't they? They did. But there were, it got to the point, even in my time, where there was a lot of divorces. But true born-again Christians, they stayed together by far the longest together. I've seen the stats on those. It was a more innocent time. Why? Because it was a more innocent time because everywhere you looked, you weren't being advertised something. You weren't being algorithmized. People weren't walking out their door and worrying that they're going to get robbed. Depending where you live, but even if it's bad where you are, it was much less. Police were much more responded. It was much more innocent because you couldn't see all the things that you can see now on a screen. Do you know right now you can easily develop trauma, secondary trauma. So I just learned vicarious trauma and secondary trauma. So as a counselor, if I hear your story, I can get secondary trauma, I can get compassion fatigue, I can get all sorts of things in the same way. Don't go into porn. Don't look at porn. You're screwing yourself up. You're scarring your mind. And those things you cannot stop. You know what? Yes, when I was a kid, I wanted the porn mags, and those were a big thing. Wow, if we got, some trying to go out and fake our IDs to get porn movies. Sorry, that's just the way that it was, because it was a big deal in those times. Like 13 years old. Those sound fun and innocent, and you know what? That's what kids do. But the reality of it, I wish I was never doing those types of things. I can't turn that clock back. But just think of it. Why do you think marriages and everything else are are breaking because people listen to what's on the internet. They take their identities from other people. They take their identities from other people. You know, I don't like hanging around people for too long because I don't want to start taking on their features, because I just want to be like Jesus Christ, but I want to have my own personality. It's a reality that happens if you hang around for people for too long. And I don't mean like a believing wife, or I don't mean family and stuff like that, but you know, even then I can't judge that way anymore because I suffer with terrible pain in my abdomen, in my body, so my enjoyment may be different than yours. But one of the worst things that has ever happened have you ever seen the videos it's porn on the internet? It's metastasized and the sins are reaching to heaven. I can't even imagine what God thinks of these things. God hates sin. Can you imagine? There are billions of these pictures, and most people do regret what they're doing. What is this? OnlyFans, women seeking out to make money. Easy money for you, but it's going to scar you for the rest of your life. It's so easy for a 5-year-old. I bet you any money there are 5-year-olds. Go on their parents' computer, they may know. They're smart little kids. You know, the path that I led in my life, which was not good, I do not wish on anyone. But when I look, that path is so easy now. The temptation is in your face. It's so easy. And man, I hear these things in meetings that I run, and I already know anyways. So personal experience, study, and hearing. You know, I think sexual sin is worse because you sin against your own body, and your body is the temple of God. So whatever it is you're doing, you know, just remember that the Holy Spirit is in you. I mean, if it is in you, if you're truly born again. You know, if you're truly born again, you will not like to do these things. Well, you might like doing them, but in any case, I don't want to get into that. It's a completely different video. The innocence has been lost. There's fatherless homes. There's just so much destruction of the family and of the idea of society. What is society? What is man? What is woman? What is all these things? The devil runs us as the prince of the power of the air. That innocence, you know, it says, don't look back, right? But I do look back, of course, to my life, to probably when I was to an ecstatic part of my life, my best memories. I'd say around 14 years old, with the innocence and the way it was when we didn't have all this stuff. It was a good feeling, but it's no longer here. It's no longer here anymore. You can watch murders, real murders now. You can watch real murders happen right now. I could find you 1,000 of them. Just look at the footage that is readily available of what Hamas did. It's there to see. They don't regulate that. There's the crime channel. There's all types of crime channels. There's so much robbery going on. People are being robbed all over the place in the U.S. And man, it's in Canada too. People are just absolutely going wild now. People are afraid to even leave their homes in many places. This is the way it is, and it's hard not to look and to think of Mystery Babylon. I understand that Revelation says where the Lord was crucified. That's Mystery Babylon. But that's Jerusalem. And it says spiritually is Egypt and Sodom. But Egypt, what do they mean by that? They're still in bondage like in Egypt. That's what I take from it. Someone told me that a few weeks back, and I never understood that. But I'm sorry, but I cannot look away at what's being done in North America, especially the United States. There's so much evil going on. There's so much destruction of the family. People have backwards views. Men aren't even dating women anymore because women think they can do either so much better. It just doesn't work out. And it's because of how our people were raised. People are entitled, and men are looking. I'm not saying it's just women, but there are a lot of men. I would say for the most part, at least 50% of men just want a nice, calm woman who is down to earth, right? Who wants to work together in a marriage, like a partnership, where you're even and it's not uneven. It's not uneven. You know, we all think of that in life. I wish I could have a girlfriend or a boyfriend who would be on an even plane with me, who wouldn't deceive, who wouldn't do all these things. And you know what? That is me. That's me. And all the women I dated, and I just picked the wrong women, but in any case, in the millennial kingdom, I don't know. It appears that people will still be married, but I don't know. There's going to be glorified people, the people who believe now, the saints. Now, there is going to be other people. And I don't know if we're going to be able to get married in the millennial kingdom, but in any case, I think that would be nice. Sure would be nice to find someone on an even plane, wouldn't it? And I know I'm going off topic, but just give me a sec here. That's all we want. If you're born again, I'm talking to only born again. That's it. I'm just talking to born again. Those who truly love Jesus and are waiting and love the appearance of his coming. We don't want deceit. We don't want lies. We don't want to have to look over our backs. We don't want people to scam us, to rob us. We want honesty, and that's it. We want love. We want to give love, and we want to take love. It's hard not to look at the sins of the West. It's a lot of dead children, babies, right? But, oh no, I'm probably wrong though, because, you know, if this is the mother and here the child is inside, when it, in here, just on the outside, sorry, on the inside, it's not a real child, it's not alive. But when it makes it 1 centimeter out, it is, right? I did my own research and I found maybe globally, but it's mostly the states of this number. It's like 70 or 80 million dead. And just that alone must really anger. And so I can't imagine that not being It says Mystery Babylon, but it doesn't say that it can't be more than one place. And my first guess would be Jerusalem, because it says where the Lord was crucified. I have to follow that. That's what it says. But you know what? Much more than that is, in the sense of Babylon. What was Babylon? The land of idols, the land of pretty much every sin is allowed. That's pretty much what I have to say, and I'll just finish off by saying I can't wait to be in that place, to sit down at the table. I just picture myself being at like a picnic table that stretches over hills, like nice pastures, nice green pastures of hills. And it's really bright out, but it's not too hot. And we're sitting at a table like the size of a picnic table width, and it's miles long, many miles long. And right beside us is a river. And when you look over, the river goes all the way up, and a river runs through it, right? Have you ever seen that movie, And a River Runs Through It? And a river goes, watch that movie, A River Runs Through It. It goes up, like kind of like an incline, and then you see the mountain, a big mountain, and you see the temple of the Lord. There's so much more. I could go into AI and try to draw what that looks like, but sit across from Paul or Moses or obviously the people that have died in Christ. That's what I have to say today. The sins of this world have reached the high heavens, and it's being made evident because look what's happening. The birth pains are here, and so are the people who are bringing about the end.